I should be preparing the next issue of UT2 in time for the ONS conference, which was due to be held at the end of this month, but it's been cancelled. So I thought I'd devote the time to giving the idea of a Subsea video news channel, a UT4, another go. So here it is. Hotels are cheap at the moment, so on Monday I thought I'd book one in Southampton for this year's Marine and Autonomy Technology Showcase, MATS 2020. But luckily I went to the website to check on the dates because I discovered it's going to be held as a virtual conference. So 10th to 12th of November, stick in your diary, it's going to be good. News, right, who's doing what? Chevron bought Noble Energy for about $5 billion. It's the first major deal since the coronavirus triggered the severe slump in the market, and the largest takeover since Occidental outbid Chevron to buy Anadarko last year for $37 billion. ROVS has been taken over by Viaro Energy in a £243 million deal. Premier Oil's going to buy non-core assets in BP's Andrew Area and Shearwater. Halfwave previously had two main services, inline inspection and subsea inspection. Well, they've sold the subsea inspection part to TSC Services. WFS Technologies, favourite company of mine, provider of internet-enabled wireless devices, been acquired by GKFF Innovo. So last month, WFS and Subsea Energy Solutions joined forces to harness expertise on cable protection systems. So McDermott's completed the sale of Lummus Technology. Got them out of a bit of a hole. Arca is going to merge with Caverna. Apparently it's a statutory merger, and that means the company will still be called Arca Solutions and not Arca Caverna like last time. But the new company is to spin off an offshore wind and carbon capture tech division, so look for that. Decommissioning. Well, we're deep into decommissioning season at the moment. Allsea's pioneering Spirit completed her first decommissioning job of the summer. This was a single lift removal of Shell UK's 44-year-old 17,000 tonnes of Brent A topsides. Well, the pioneering Spirit's pretty amazing, and those who haven't seen it, the vessel's got twin hulls and they're positioned either side of the platform, and up to 16 beams project under the platform and raise it upwards the actual lift only takes about 9 seconds. At the other end of the scale, Petrodec carried out removal of pickerel for Perenco, and this also used a single vessel, but this time as a jack-up called Energy Endeavour, and it was used for P&A and topsides prep, and then they put rails down and the topsides was actually skidded over onto the jacket. I was reading a wonderful article by Jim Ray of Scientia Sagacitas Limited, purveyors of knowledge and insight, about Buchan Alpha, which is apparently moored alongside the Dalesville decommissioning facility. Veolia UK was responsible for remooring of the hull to facilitate further deconstruction. However, the hull section with the pontoons broke loose and was washed across the Voe and came to rest on rocks some distance away. And for ages afterwards, the locals been fascinated by the antics of the contractor trying to recover it and attempt to continue the controlled and safe deconstruction. Now, almost 9 months later, it's still there, and the only viable solution is probably to treat it as a wreck and as a marine salvage job, and bring in expertise and equipment appropriate to the task. Good story, Jim. Cables. Cross Lakes planning a 550-kilometre cross-channel subsea fibre optic cable connecting the two great culture hubs of Europe, Paris and Slough. The non-repeated line will contain 96 fibre pairs, each providing over 20 terabits per second. Did you know that 98% of all internet traffic now uses subsea cables? And it may be on the up because Google's announced the plans to lay a new subsea cable called the Grace Hopper between the United States, United Kingdom and Spain, providing better resilience for the network. Now, speaking of transoceanic cables, Google consider it might be possible to use fibre optic cable to detect earthquakes and tsunamis. For many years, fibre optics have been used for sensing applications, but they're limited to around 100 kilometres. Google say they developed a technique that works over tens of thousands of kilometres, and furthermore, they don't require special fibres or equipment. They can use existing fibres to detect disturbances on the sea floor. And better yet, they say the technique relies on equipment that's present on the vast majority of the world's fibre optic systems. Not only can it help detect earthquakes emanating from the tectonic plates, but it can also detect pressure changes in the ocean itself, and that could help predict tsunamis. And they make the important point that it's a source of complementary information to augment existing systems. Trenching. Trenching season's also underway. Global Offshore's completed the last phase of its work at Kriegersflak using its newly delivered PLP 240 multifunction subsea plough from Osbit. Ensure recently launched its boulder clearance and post-lay backfill plough, the AMP 1500. And this has undergone recent updates and a new control system and a 4-cutter shares being added to reduce bollard pull. Innovatum has completed the cable magnetising of a large European offshore wind farm. The process was carried out directly from the cable lay vessel over 9 weeks. Why do they do that? Once a subsea cable's been laid, insurance companies want to know if it's been buried deep enough to be protected against trawlers and anchors, and along the correct route, of course. So there are 4 main ways to do this. The first is to use acoustic-based systems like a sub-bottom profiler, and that sends down a pulse and measures the time and strength through reflection to show the depth. Another one's pulse induction, and this is like an underwater metal detector. It's sort of range limited, works for 1.5 meters depth, which is okay, but sometimes most cables are buried to maybe 2.5 to 3 meters. The third method is to send a tone, actually an electric current, down the conductor, and the range is dependent on the amount of current put into the cable. But the problem with this is you can't do it with live cable, and it's necessary to shut the cable load off first, and therefore you can't do it if it's without losing revenue. Innovatum, however, uses a technique called passive magnetising tracking, and this works by inducing a magnetic field into the armour shielding, not the core itself, but the armouring. And after the line's laid, they come along again with an ROV with the Smart Track survey system to detect the cable. And it's possible to detect cables without it, but magnetising them makes it a lot easier. It's good for 4 meters on live and dead cables. Surface vessels. Hasn't been quiet recently. Well, the Flanders Marine Institute, or VLIZ, VLIZ, has taken advantage of this relative quietness to map the underwater soundscape of the Belgian North Sea and record the noise levels. The area has seen a 15% fall in shipping intensity, so it's going to use that information and compare it with normal marine traffic soundscape once the activities recommence, and this will help them determine the impact of man-made noise on natural sea life and the marine environment. So how did VLIZ do that? Well, it put its Autonaut USV, Adhemar, I think, into action to carry out the underwater noise measurements. The Autonaut's powered by wavefoil propulsion technology produces virtually no noise, and they also use Seash's MicroPAM passive acoustic monitoring system. In videos in the past, I've mentioned Powerboy or Powerbuoy as a potential power source and comms for underwater garages for ROVs and AUVs. But Ocean Power Technologies has repackaged it as a surveillance solution suitable for security monitoring in offshore areas. A single OPT surface surveillance buoy can monitor more than 16,000 square miles of ocean surface. Underwater vehicles. Well, I've just been finishing off issue 4 of UT2. That's Xblue's 3D sonar on the front cover. More about that next month. But in the issue, there's news about Teledyne Marine's Slocum G2 glider, Slibo, let's call it Slibo. It's completed a 4-year journey. circumnavigating the Atlantic in 4 legs. Anyway, it totals 22,744 kilometres and about 1,273 days at sea. So that's quite impressive. AUVs. Ocean Infinity successfully completed its recent work for ExxonMobil on the Straborough. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. The block in offshore Guyana. The project involved acquiring high-end geophysical and geotechnical data from multiple vehicles between 70 metres and over 2,000 metres water depth, around 3,000 square kilometres. Oh, what else? Oh, Kawasaki Heavy Industries has completed the verification tests for the close-range subsea pipeline inspection of its SPICE AUV. SPICE, it's an acronym. Anyone? Well, you're wrong, because it's called the Subsea Precise Inspector with Close Eyes. It's a very impressive vehicle, in fact, because it's got a robot arm. Kawasaki say the design's based on fusion of submarine and industrial robot technologies fostered in-house over many years. I think we're going to have to start looking at that in a bit more detail. It looks very interesting. Coral. IFREMER, the French National Institute for Ocean Science, has chosen Ixblue to equip its new Coral AUV. Coral. It's an acronym. Anyone? No, bit easier than SPICE. It's the Constructive Offshore Robotics Alliance. Back in 2017, IFREMER chose ECA to develop a new AUV able to reach 6,000 metre water depths. Well, the AUV is going to be equipped with a SAMS 150 synthetic aperture sonar, a Fin C7 INS, a NECO's 5000 sub-bottom profiler, and it'll use Ixblue's Delph software for SCS navigation and post-processing. ROVs. Yeah, well, the big news is probably Subsea has developed a new 7-function all-electric work-class manipulator. There are quite a few electric manipulators on the market, but this could be game-changing, because the problem with old electric manipulators is they're probably a bit underpowered. Subsea say that its electric manipulator is equally powerful, more precise and more intelligent than the hydraulic equivalents currently being used on work-class ROVs today. It's a bit of a statement. Millimetric position comes from each of the 7 joint modules having its own self-contained smart distributed microprocessor. It needs far less maintenance when compared to hydraulic systems. I think, given the chance, I'm going to have a bit of a close look at that. Subsea have been busy. They've sold a 1,000 metre rated Falcon DR AUV to the Ocean Tracking Network, based in Dalhousie in Canada, I think. We did a piece on that in UT2. It's really interesting. Subsea equipment. Okay, I've been told to get on with it. We're overrunning, so let's go straight to renewables, and we'll do subsea equipment next month. The world's first semi-submersible floating wind farm is being commissioned, with the last platform of the Wind Float Atlantic project being connected to the grid. There are 3 units, each supplying the Portuguese electrical grid with energy generated by their 8.4 megawatt turbines, the world's largest turbines ever installed on a floating platform. The platform measures 30 metres and there's 50 metres between the columns. Speaking of renewables, do you see what Saipem are up to on their website? No, that's not it. Oh, that's the Scarabeo 9 crossing the Bosphorus Strait. Oh, so cool. I remember seeing a picture of the Saipem 7000 under that. What was the other one? The Leif Erikson, like the Scarabeo 9, had to remove its derrick. I remember ages ago somebody sent a video of the Pioneering Spirit going under the bridge. Can't remember if that was official video from All Seas or just a video from a contact. Oh, this happens all the time. Looking for something, get sidetracked. I went to the loft the other day, happened to see some papers 30 years ago. Half an hour later I came down, hadn't a clue what went up there in the first place. Floating solar. That was it. Saipem and Equinor have recently signed a cooperation agreement to develop a floating solar panel park technological solution for coastal applications. Anyway, this trial video has gone for long enough. I've got to get UT2 out and write UT3 and send that out to thousands. So anyway, you'd be doing me a huge favour if you subscribe by clicking here. Next issue of UT2 has cameras and ROVs and other stories, so please send them to me, John at ut-2.com. Thank you very much for watching.